What is going on, people? So we're back again with our regularly scheduled lives. Um, Today I'm doing an interview per usual. We're gonna have a guest on in a bit. I'm thinking I'm probably gonna switch the time. So whenever I do the what was it called? Whenever I do the my regular shows throughout the week, so my Wednesday and Saturday show, for the most part, I'm gonna have the regular flow that we have. But when we do the interviews, I'm gonna do it differently because for next week, I'm not gonna make the poster yet. But for next week, we're gonna have some people from other areas. So one of my friends from England, she's gonna do a stream with me. And like I said, given the time zones, we're gonna do it earlier. So I'm just gonna leave it on my page, and you guys can watch it. Okay, so you guys can watch it at the right time because I'm probably gonna do it early, like 4 o'clock, and I know people are at work, they're trying to come home, they got stuff going on, so I'll probably add those either to YouTube, or if I don't add them to YouTube, then I'll just leave them on the page. And the people that can interview with me throughout the regular time, of course, will have that. But these are for people overseas. Like I said, given the time, I also have another person from Australia that I'm going to be interviewing him. So, like I said, given the time zone, I'm probably just going to leave it on the page. So that's so you guys know what's going on. So before we get started, I always like to start with our hero's creed. So repeat after me. I'm smart, I'm skilled, I will. So we have our candle of the month. So don't forget, because last month was September, we had Strawberry September. So this month is October, so we have Autumn October. A nice scented candle. It's called the Golden Harvest Pumpkin. And once again, it's from the Homeworks collection. It's spelled HOMEWORX, Homeworks. So get yourself a nice scented candle. Tag in as the hashtag Autumn October. And what I'll do is when you tag it and post it to your story, I'll give you a shout out. I'll just give you a shout out, and I'll also tag you tagging it just to make sure that we both tagged it. So make sure that you use that as a hashtag. So let's get started. So I have a guest coming on. So we're gonna get started in 1 second. What's going on?
Hey Don, how you doing?
I'm good. It's really nice to have you on. So you can start off by telling us your name and pretty much what you specialize in. What's your training niche, your training group, who you primarily focus and train.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Skylar Miranda. I'm an NASM certified personal trainer, and my niche and focus is women's functional training, with a little bit of a focus more so on pre and women who are postpartum as well.
Nice, nice. Now, why did you pick postpartum? I did check out your page, and I was kind of wondering, out of all the people, why would you pick a group that's more sensitive and a group that I wouldn't say is smaller, but specifically is in that area?
Very, yes, it is very specific. And that's actually a very personal reason as to why my fitness journey started. I actually got into fitness after an ectopic pregnancy rupture that, almost took me out of the game and, really hurt my marriage. And it was one of those things that kind of made me hit my rock bottom before I got into the gym and really started to take control of some stuff. So I wanted to, help women who were struggling to get pregnant, women who were struggling coming to terms with what their body looked like after pregnancy and kind of giving them the tools to cope with that really tough situation.
Right, right, right. And how long would you say you've been in the game, specifically in the game for helping out women who are postpartum?
About 5 years. So I've been in for quite the while. I trained at one facility for almost three, and then I kind of took a year off from in-person training and moved kind of more into the orthopedic side, and I was kind of doing that a little bit. And then I'm back now in a gym, personal training one-on-one with people, and it's definitely like reignited my passion. So I've been in it for quite the while, and I was a unique case where I decided to really focus on going to school, getting my degree, and getting my certs before I ever even laid hands on somebody.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, smart because some people they're mixed about it. They're like, you know what, maybe I'll train on the side a little bit before I sign higher ticket clients. And I always advocate for, do it at your own risk, but I would prefer, your search. You want to make sure that, of course, you have your insurance, but that you know what you're doing fully, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It's actually one of the things that I talk about a lot, and we'll be talking a lot about on my YouTube channel. Because I actually got in a debate about with one of my coworkers about this, who was still getting all of her stuff, and she had already started training. I was like, I mean, when you go to the ER,
Hmm.
do you want a doctor who hasn't gotten his PhD yet put his hands on you?
Exactly.
Because I think we take the role as a personal trainer and the importance we're playing in somebody's life really lightly. Like,
Hmm.
we could injure somebody, we could cause somebody to get very ill if we're not paying attention properly. Like, we have to learn the signs of heart disease before we ever even stick somebody on the treadmill. It's such an important role, and we think because we don't get paid the same as
Exactly.
doctors that our responsibility is any less, and that's just not the case.
Exactly. And just the fact that it's a much lower bar to entry, it makes sense why people are like, I can just go out and train. It's not something where you need years and years of med school. So people just go out and they say, okay, I did my test, I did my cert, I did my NASM. Or
I've been
even
an
if they
athlete
didn't
for
do it,
20 years. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Or they're like, I played, in high school and college. It's lower bar, so that's why people. I feel like I'm starting to see for the trainers that I manage that they have that mindset before they got certified. They're like, oh, I've been training, so I can just do it, and it makes sense because it's something that's not as high ticket. It's not as you don't need as many qualifications to do it, and then there's
Mm-mm.
people who do it and have at least one cert. So I think that happens a whole lot.
Yeah, it absolutely does. But that's my own soapbox that that I like to touch on with a lot of things because I think it is just one of those things that gets really overlooked. And I think a lot of people forget that when you're working with a population, people are so reliant on your education and you staying up to
Mm,
date with your education and you knowing what's going on for them.
right. Has that happened with you in any situation?
Oh, it absolutely has. I actually currently train a heart surgeon
Wow.
who's retired. And it's
Mm,
funny because you think heart surgeon, he
mm,
has to know all these things, right?
right.
And we have conversations where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting enough protein." I'm like,
Wow.
"Okay, well this is the number that I want you to be at. Tell me if you're hitting it." And he's not. But
Wow, that's amazing.
but you would think like, okay, as a doctor,
Yeah.
as as a heart surgeon,
Somebody
he
who
would
did
know, right?
medical, stuff, medical school.
Right, but he doesn't. So he's struggling with having some muscle atrophy. And I'm like, well, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this is happening. I'm like, well,
Mm,
I mean, you kind of, protein are the building blocks for your muscles. So if you're not getting it, you're not going to have
exactly. You're
any,
not going to build.
your
You can't
muscles are
build
going to
from
go away.
exactly. You
Like,
can't build from air. I used to always say that in high school. You can't like not taking anything and get a
yeah,
result.
you're like trying to
Wow.
build a Lego castle without half the set.
Geez, that's amazing. Now you mentioned pediatrics. What did you do with that?
Orthopedics.
Orthopedics. Orthopedics. That's what it
Yeah,
was. Okay.
so bones. Um, I kind of moved around the urgent care a little bit. I was the one that kind of talked to everybody about what was going on and got the information that I needed to get in order to, get them the best service and figure out what they need to do for themselves. And it's the amount of, I don't want to throw any shade. I'm a little opinionated, but the amount of grown men who come
Uh,
in saying, I didn't hit the gym for 3 months. I thought I could deadlift and I couldn't. Now my back hurts.
wow. And it makes sense because you need to ease back into it.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where it's like I have to kind of like bite my tongue because I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say
Because your
anything.
bones, they weaken after a while if you
Right.
haven't
Well,
done
and
it.
we draw the muscles too. So if somebody tore their spinal erectors or, herniated a disc or anything like that, like they would come to us and we would do that process for them and get them the care that they needed, get them set up with their MRIs and the surgeons and all that stuff. Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of these people have coaches.
Right.
Like, and that's what's sad to me is a lot of these people come in with these injuries and they have coaches or they have trainers or they have people who are just
Oh,
throwing.
they do. Okay.
Yes, they
I
do.
see
They absolutely.
somebody guiding.
Yeah, but they think like they can just go back to how they were, and like that's something where I'm talking about like the education and just knowing the human body and what it goes through. Like I'm fairly certain it's something like, oh, I don't want to throw a wrong number out there, but in school, you learn that for every week that you do not weight train, you lose 4% of your muscle mass or
I
something
vaguely
like.
remember it. Yeah, it was a lower
Yeah, like
lower
something like
percent.
that. Like, yeah, it's something super crazy, but when you think about that, it's every day.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's every day that you don't do it. So if you don't train for 6 months and you go to, deadlift a weight that you had lifted forever ago, like you're not gonna be able to do it. I'm actually running into that same issue because something you wouldn't have found on your deep dive is I was a power lifter for 2 years. And I got really, really strong. But I kind of started to develop a physique that I wasn't a huge fan on as a 5'1", 100-pound girl. I wasn't a huge fan of the way that I was starting to look, and I had some personal issues kind of come up, so I took a step back from it.
Mhm.
But I was squatting. My max squat was 215 pounds at
Mm.
106 pounds body weight.
I was about to say at 100 pounds, almost flat. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah, real tiny. And I went to go squat 95 and it was hard.
And people don't forget when you get sick, that's the worst thing because if you get sick for like 2 weeks, that's a lot of time. Like we just had a pandemic, so people that got sick, and people even if you get a regular cold, you're missing
You're
out on
down.
time. You're missing out so much. So people like that, my friends that don't train, and I tell them, they're like, "Oh, you're just taking 2 weeks off." I'm like, and I got sick. I'm like, that's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time. I mean, when you think like I went and trained like a really good full session, weight training, recording it, setting up for YouTube, I was at the gym for almost 3 hours. So you got to
Wow.
think people who are seriously training and there to for a purpose and they're invested in their workout, they're good. Like they're there for a good 2 hours. So you train that 5 days a week. That's 10 hours that you invest in a week on average into your fitness. So if you miss 20 hours,
Exactly.
that'd be like getting your paycheck cut in half.
Truly. Wow. So
I mean,
with
and
fitness,
it's an insane kind of concept that a lot of
you need
people
a good
just
time.
don't. Yeah, they just
Yeah.
don't even think about it.
Jeez. Wow. Okay. So next question was, what is your fitness story overall? So this is before even training. How did you even get in?
Okay. So for me, I kind of like I think we talked about it a little bit. I had a less than savory kind of way to come into
Mm,
training. I was an athlete a little bit in my younger years. I did Taekwondo for about a decade,
mm,
and I got really good at that, and I was competitive and traveled around for tournaments and stuff like that. And then I actually got very sick. I have Crohn's disease. So I got that diagnosed whenever I was right 9 or 10, and it slowed me down a lot. I went from, going to train like 3, 4 days a week to and being like the same height I am. So I haven't grown since. I'm the
wow.
same size that I was when I was 10 years old because of it. Because malnutrition, if people don't know that, really stunts a lot.
A
But
lot.
I was really athletic. I was in great shape. I had a lot of muscle, and then I got sick, and I dropped down to like probably 70 pounds soaking wet.
Mm,
I was really sick. I was hospitalized for a long time. And then after that, like I got really depressed, even as like a really young child, because when you like you have something you love, you stop doing it. You see all these other kids doing things and like having fun and going with their friends, and I'm stuck in a hospital bed. And it wasn't one time, it was over the course of years I kept having to be hospitalized because it's not something that really goes away.
Right.
So I was very depressed as a child. And then I dabbled in the gym a little bit like in my like mid-teens, 12, 13, 14, and it just wasn't for me. I had a friend make a really negative comment about my body one time, and that's not my mentality. I'm a really positive person for the most part. So that immediately deterred me because she was struggling with her like own little anorexic mentality that she had going on where she was in the gym telling herself she had to be there because she was fat and she needed to have like the perfect body. And that wasn't something I could personally relate to. So the first time she had made a comment, I was like, nope, this isn't for me. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this as a punishment for myself. I'm not going to be in here having my friends tell me like my body looks a certain type of way and I need to be here for this. So I stopped going and I did not step foot back into a gym until, like I said, I had that ectopic pregnancy that made me really, really depressed. And my best friend looked at me and she's like, oh, we're not doing this. She herself lost, I think, 70 pounds in her own fitness journey. She's a beautiful woman, and I respect her. I respect the hell out of her. And she's even stayed on it now. I mean, it's been, I think, for her 8 years. So she's still on it. She's never derailed. Like she has found a really good place of balance. But my fitness journey kind of started from a place of like, I can't live like this anymore. Not like a lot of people, they go to high school, they do their sports, they maybe go into sports med, then college comes up, they're like, I don't know what I want to do for college. And then they maybe had that like one coach that really impacted their life. And you're like, you know what? I want to be like Mr. Sanders. I want to do for Mr. Sanders what he did like for me. You know what I mean? And that is so one way to go, right? Like that's a great way to come into the industry. But it's not everybody's story, and mine is a little sad because it's I was in a place where I wasn't getting out of bed. I was barely showering. I couldn't stand to look at myself in the mirror. I felt gross all the time. I had really bad acne. I was bloated constantly. My joints were starting to hurt, and I was only like 20.
Gee.
So she got me into the gym, and things really started to change for me. I started to get into a routine. I started developing a pattern. I started changing my eating habits, which then helped my stomach feel better. And it was kind of like a domino effect. And I got into 4 months of being in the gym and I was like, no, people need to know about this. I was like, I need to be like the woman because you got to think 5 years ago, we didn't have women coming forward. Like we had trainers, we did, like there were women trainers, but there were not women
As
trainers
many
on,
now.
yeah, speaking out, like
It's
making
true.
a huge difference. Like that was just
True.
when like fitness influencers that were girls was like starting to become a thing. And even
Yeah.
then it's Pilates or it's yoga. Very limited in the weight training section
So
of
true.
I mean 5 years ago like things have completely changed.
In a
Just in
short
the, I would
amount
say
of time.
yeah, in a very short amount of time. And the girls that are coming into their 20s now, they don't know what it was like whenever you're being told like, oh, go do yoga, go run. Well, guess
Hmm.
what? I don't want
Hmm.
to stretch and I like breathing. I don't want to run.
Oh. But it's
So you
such a
start,
good point because yeah, it's true. It's not a lot. It's really not a lot.
no, it's
Well,
not.
it wasn't a lot. Yeah, it's coming up. But when you think about prior to about 2016, it was mostly guys. Truly, it
Hmm.
was all just guys. At least in
Well,
that big social media
yes.
space.
And it was one type of man. It was your beef cake power lifter bodybuilder dude who said,
Mhm.
drink protein, lift heavy. Like, there was no education, there was no relatability.
Especially the relatability. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because not everybody's goal is that. Like my boyfriend, for example, he's a smaller framed man. Like he prefers it that way. He likes the physique that he has. He doesn't want to put on massive amounts of size, but had he have not been able to decipher that for himself, he would have, gone on social media and been like, "Oh, I guess I have to be jacked because that's the only
Exactly.
it's the only kind of men out there is these
And then you're
jacked,
miserable.
macho men is like what's being
Right.
portrayed to society." And then same thing with girls. We're running into that a little bit, but that's a whole own
It's a
thing.
whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing.
It is so true. So moving forward, so what happened later on? So when you started training, what was the first, I guess, inkling of results that you started seeing, and how did it make you feel?
I noticed for myself that I started to lose bloating. That was the first thing. And I think that had less to do with my training and just more to do with my overall water intake.
Interesting.
I went from being the kind of person who would wake up, drink a coffee, and then start on like the Mountain Dew of the day
Yeah. So super
and no
dehydrated.
water. And then the first thing I did in my fitness journey was I started tracking my water to drink a full gallon a day. And when I tell you, I literally saw like my body almost melt in a
Wow.
month because I
Wow.
was retaining so much water
Yeah,
that
from
it's
just
like now
having
that I could
sugar.
equal it out, like I could just equal out and I wasn't having to hold on to everything. I started to tone up and firm up within months. But I was a petite person. It's not like that's why I do not categorize myself as like a weight loss specialist because as much as I can do it, I have the knowledge and the know-how and I have done it for other people. It's not a personal struggle that I've had. I didn't
Mm.
like I have the opposite. I can't put on size to save my life. So, I mean, so I never, and I never claimed that to be my story because as much as, you know, there are women out there who have struggled with that their whole lives, and I would never want to pretend that that was something I had to do, but I did need
Right.
to recomposition is the word, and that was
And
something that
how
really
was
happened
that?
for me quickly.
How was that
I
feeling the first time?
When I first saw like the first realization that I had of the fact that like what I was doing was working, confident. And that's the only thing I can say is like for the first time in my life when I walked outside, I didn't feel like people were staring at me for XYZ, whatever reason us as women think people stare. Because it's not always good.
No.
We're not always like, oh, that guy is staring at me. He must really like my hair. No, sometimes we're like, oh my God, that guy is staring at me. Is my roll hanging over my pants? So like the first time that I really noticed the change, I walked outside and I was like, I'm gonna wear a crop top. I'm gonna show off my arms. I'm gonna put some sun on my pasty alabaster skin. Like I'm gonna go out and I'm going to command the respect for the first time I feel like I deserve. And
Wow.
it was huge. And I wasn't, you know, that negative mindset had really started to be quiet.
Right.
And that's where I got hooked. That was the minute I got hooked. And I was like,
Right.
yeah, I have to do this.
Now, did other people notice it or first, or did you? What was that like?
So I was like I said, I kind of had a unique situation. So my ex-husband was military, and with that, he was kind of controlling in a way, and very. He wanted the like the how do I say this non-offensively?
Like
The very
modestness?
modest,
Oh,
like
modest.
yeah, he wanted the like Amish dress bonnet
Okay.
kind of gal. Like
Super, super, yeah, super modest. Okay.
yeah, he wanted me to like close myself off to the world
Right.
and he made sure that I knew that. So
Mhm.
I for a very long time still I was still hiding behind clothes, not of my own choice but because of his. So it took a long time for me to really see it and nobody else could really see it.
Mm.
It wasn't until I started powerlifting where other people had started to notice my actual like muscle change. Like at first I had like lost and I had toned up. And then when I started to power lift, you know, when you're powerlifting, you're hot. I don't know if you've ever tried to pull 85-90% of your max off of the floor a couple times, but you get hot and you have to be so close to the bar and you have to increase your ranges of motion so much. Like you can't wear sweatpants in a hoodie. It
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, so that was whenever I started to really notice things and people around me had started to notice things was, you know, after I needed to start wearing the tank tops and the shorts and that kind of thing, when people could start seeing the muscle definition really happening. But when he was military, we were away from my friends, we were away from my family. I wasn't active on social media. My closest friend, she noticed my mentality difference before she noticed anything physically. But now, like, I mean, I could send you pictures to put up with this post if you wanted to, but like, it wasn't a huge change. It's not like a dramatic weight loss for me, but like, there's just a total physique change, a total recomping that happened. My arms
Right.
started to fill out. I started to get more shapely legs. My glutes started to build because I did not have glutes. I'm gonna put that out there. God did not bless me with those naturally. I have built those every cell.
Okay, and you didn't have surgery, so
No, I did not.
you
I
did
did
it
not
yourself.
do the fast route either. Sometimes I wish I had, but envious of those who can. But no, every cell, every growth, any inches that are there, I have built myself.
It
And
is good.
it's not fast. That's something that social media has kind of
Yes,
that's a trigger for me because
especially that. Yes.
it's not a fast process. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, look at this 6 months change." No, you didn't. Stop lying. Stop lying
Exactly.
to people. And even if you did, that's not necessarily going to be somebody else's experience.
Thank you. Because genetics and just a lot of different factors,
Oh yeah,
hormones.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it took me a solid for example, my glutes the way around are like 35 inches, but my waist is 25. So
Right.
I used to be a stick figure. I think my glutes started at 31. So 4 inches
Oh
of
wow.
gain
Yeah.
in in 3 years where I've been like really focusing on that being a primary goal of mine. And
Yeah.
obviously like I'm also like we said a sick individual, so it's very hard for me to absorb certain nutrients and that plays a huge factor. But it's not 6 months. It's not I would say realistically an inch a year
Mhm.
is what you're looking at.
Right.
But you
And
could
enough
definitely
muscle, not just fat, like and mixing fat and
right.
muscle together.
Right. And a healthy mix of both is always great, but yeah, absolutely. It's not fast and it's not something that, happens really quickly. I would say in the last year it was actually when I took time away from training really heavy all the time and coming back into it now that I very quickly start to see my body jumping back. So that's the thing is like I was talking about where you lose that 4% or something, every day, every week. That on the other side of that is once your body got used to that,
Mhm.
you can take a step back.
Thank
And
you.
when
And
you
I've been saying this for at least the past month that, if somebody who's
it's
been training for
healthy
a few
too.
years, you've been training for a
It,
few years, you can take time off and not lose everything. But if you're just starting, you can't do that. You need the
no.
foundation first.
Yeah, you need to definitely I mean, we taught I don't what the certifying body do you have?
You said certain type of body?
Certifying body for your certs. Is it ISSA or
Oh, yeah, ISSA, yeah. But
okay,
I
so
haven't renewed it.
nah, that's fine. You got the information. It hasn't changed much. But so like for example, I'm NASM and NASM we focus like we do in my college, we actually dedicated an entire 6 weeks on just behavior modification.
Wow.
Just behavior modification, how to speak to clients, how to reframe clients' thinking, words to avoid, terminology to avoid. And the basic, you go through these like 5 stages. You start with like the period where they're just like thinking about it. Like they're just thinking about the fact that they want to make the change. That is when you have to get them and
Exactly.
convince them. The minute that they're like, okay, maybe I should start doing this, that is when you have to rope them in. Because if they walk away from that encounter and you didn't sell them, they're going to go a whole nother year.
I was saying, oh, I'll wait till January again, saying the
Yep,
same.
absolutely.
Wow.
And then you have what's called your action phase, which is when they are going to the gym. They are making those changes. And this is usually the first 12 months where people are like, they're starting to develop the routine, they need to stay on it, but they have to stay on it for those first 12 months. And
Exactly.
after the first 12 months, that's the turning point.
Mhm.
Somebody, once they get to those 12 months, they are either likely to completely fall off and you will never see them again, or that's when they head into their maintenance phase and they make it a lifestyle.
Exactly.
So, like, one of the things that I try to convince a lot of my online clients to do is set up your finances to afford me for 14 months, not a year,
All right.
14 months. Because if we can keep you on for those 14 months, I guarantee you're not ever going to fall off.
Wow.
Because you've set that foundation, you've made it a part of your everyday routine.
Exactly.
whatever
And
that is.
financially as well. You know,
Right,
you know what you're gonna be paying at least, but you know what to expect, and then it becomes a habit. By then, it's a
right.
master.
Yeah, now it's just part. It's just part of your budgeting.
It's
Absolutely.
wow.
But I mean, we talk about that, and we talk about how, a lot of people they're at that tipping point of whether or not they're going to stay consistent or whether or not they're going to completely backtrack. And if you fall off in those first 3 months,
That's it.
good
That's it.
luck.
People will never
You're
come back.
swimming to shore. Yeah, you're swimming to shore at that point. Like we're not helping you. Because at that point you have to learn how to help yourself. Because I can give you all the information. I can give you all the education. I can say all the nice things. But if you don't hear it and implement it, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. And if you're not coming to the gym, then you're not gonna come. You're gonna be like, "Oh, it's raining. I'm tired." You're not gonna come.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I had a client who really just recently, she really struggled to show up. And it's so sad because she had so much potential. Like I could see the hunger in her eyes, but I could also see the other voice, talking to her, like telling her whatever it was telling her. I won't pretend to assume, but and she fell off. She found one excuse to just not come in anymore, and she didn't. And I'm not saying that to be harsh to anybody, but at the same time, you have to give it the time, and
Right.
you have to give it this. If you can make girls in their early 20s, if you can make plans to go meet a boy that you've never met before,
Mhm.
you can make plans to come into your training session.
It is true, but it is true. Yeah, yeah.
It is
For
true.
about an hour.
Yeah, people are like, oh, date Thursday night? Well, I was meeting my family, but never mind. Oh, training session Thursday morning? I can't. Why?
Exactly.
Why?
Wow. Yeah.
But and when you start telling people like these kind of making these metaphors to make them kind of understand the choice that they're making is not for themselves. They're not putting themselves first. And they're putting instant gratification first.
Yeah.
And fitness, it's not that. I'm sorry. I wish it was. I wish there was this little blue pill that we could just give somebody to make all their fitness dreams happen. The closest thing is pre-workout. Sorry.
Truly. Truly. So, how did you keep going when? Because this is a question that we get a lot. But how did you keep going when you weren't seeing the results yet?
I think at some point I kind of realized because we all plateau, right? Like there is only a certain point where something has to change, whether it's your body, your habits, your mindset, like something needs to change, right? So when I personally got to my own plateau, it was with powerlifting. And I really hit that snag. And for me, that competing was kind of the drive that I had set for myself the last few years of my fitness journey. And I did take a step back, like we just said. Like I took a little bit of time for myself to kind of reevaluate what I wanted for me. What did I want my physique to look like? What did I want my personal story to be? What experience did I want to take to my clients? Because do I want to go in every day and train my clients and be like, yeah, like personally, I haven't touched a weight in a year. No, I don't want to say that, right? So what kept me going was one, my boyfriend getting into fitness himself because he has his own, personal struggles that he has. And I was telling him a little bit about my journey and he was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to start tracking my food. I'm going to start doing this with intention. And seeing him almost like find his passion within it and seeing him have the emotional change and the mentality change was like, yeah, I miss that. I miss that feeling. I miss
Mhm.
that wanting to like go in and really like hammer some stuff out, like take my problems to the iron. And I think that that's a big thing is like just surrounding yourself with the people who have like mindsets. It's
The
huge.
community, the sense of community.
Yeah, it's huge. Like one of the things that I'm going to be doing moving forward with my, personal training is I want a board for all of the clients to talk to each other, whether they want to shit talk me or what. Like I want them to all be able to like go in and just talk. Like, yeah, I did this exercise and it felt this way and I never want to touch it again. And somebody being on there like, yeah, but like I saw my glutes grow so much with this. Like, and just have that like sense of there are people out there who are in the same place, who are all trying to go to the same place and they're dealing with the same things. Because like I was actually one of my favorite YouTubers. She just had a baby And obviously, I love babies. But she had just had a baby, and she was talking about during her birth experience, she was listening to a podcast who it kept saying, like, around the world, there are thousands of other women doing exactly what you're doing right now when she was in labor. And she was like, that was the only thing that got me through. Is because we seem to think that when we're going through something that's really hard, that we're the only person doing that hard thing. And that's
True.
not the and that's not the case. We're not islands. Like if I have to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow, there are thousands of people in the world that have to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow.
Truly. So, yeah, say that again for the people, because I got to make a soundbite out of this. But you got to say that again. You know, you're not the only person going through, and then that translates to other stuff, not even just fitness.
Everything, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say it again for you. No,
Wow.
so when we're going through hard things, we seem to think we're the only people doing it, and there are thousands of people doing that exact same hard thing. And if they can do it, I can do it.
So let's see. So the next thing is the topic that we had for yesterday. So you can just give your 2 cents on it. It doesn't have to be long unless you wanted
Sure.
to.
I
But
mean, I'm a chatterbox.
it was cardio before or after weights.
Ooh, I hate to say that depends.
Okay, so you were like me because I told him at the end. I was like, I'm like, it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, for me, it's a depends. What's your goal? Now, if we're talking specifically like cardio before hypertrophy training, no, I
Okay,
don't
good.
think so.
So we're on the same page. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're probably. I think as trainers, we should kind of all be on the same page with this because it's basic science. But no, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, no, cardio should come before weights if cardiovascular health is your focus. If you're
Mhm.
a marathon runner who weight trains to keep your joints and muscles healthy and flexible, absolutely do your cardio first. That's your primary focus. But if you're a powerlifting athlete, if you're even I hate I hate to say this, but football players,
Mhm.
your cardio should be after. Because as much as you're running on the field, well, depending on your position, obviously, like as much as you're running on the field, you're trying to take stuff down. Like that's
Exactly.
your goal. If you're like in a defensive position, your goal is to take people down. You need to focus on that.
You're not
That-
sprinting the whole field. Exactly.
yeah, like you can sprint the whole field. Like that's fine. Train that. But if your primary focus, is whatever you're doing, if it's to get strong, it should always come first. Your goal, your primary goal should always be first.
Right.
And that's just my 2 cents of it because you don't want to take the energy that you
Contagious.
could be putting into your weights into your cardio if your cardio isn't the thing that you're doing.
Right. And the reason why people ask was because they read articles. You know how it is on blogs. You have people that they don't train, but like they'll look at science and they'll say, "Oh, let's just do it because the science says this helps." And they were like, let's do cardio before. And I was trying to explain to them, I'm like, you want to use your energy for what you want to emphasize first.
Right. The only time I would say that I think cardiovascular training would be applicable prior to weight training, if weight training is your goal, is if you're doing it like a 2 a day style. Where
Yeah.
you're like first thing in the morning you're getting your cardio out of the way, but you're not going to weight train until 6 o'clock in the evening. Because
Exactly.
at
You have
that
a
point
full window.
at that point you've replenished your carb loads. Because fasted cardio is an amazing thing.
Right.
It's great for you. So if you're trying to have fat loss while building weight and like hypertrophy, like trying to go into a hypertrophy, I think it's amazing to do some fasted cardio first thing in the morning. But I would just weight train later in the evening.
Exactly. And give yourself time to truly replenish everything.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, and that goes into all the like adaptations that your body goes through doing during cardio and weight training, all the oxidative states and weight.
Let's see. So the
That's the
last
nerves.
thing was, let me see. Why is fitness important to you?
I think fitness is important to me personally because it completely changed my entire life. I don't know where I would be had I not have started when I started. And that it's like it's a scary thing to say because your life goes one direction and you think it's the way that it was always meant to go. Like, do I always feel like I was meant to be a personal trainer? Yeah, absolutely. But every once in a while when I have those moments of like, what would have happened if I would have given into that depression? and
Right.
then like let it, because my husband was deployed also at the time of me like getting into the gym and finding myself. He was gone for 6 months. So it's like I did that. I made that change as soon as he left. So it's like where would those 6 months have taken me if I would have like really handed myself over that depression and not taking care of myself? Like I was in a pretty dark place. I kind of shudder at the thought sometimes because as much as you like to think, yeah, I mean, like people don't talk about, suicide awareness and depression enough because, we're also in the generation where those terms are thrown around so much, where it's like, I'm gonna kill myself, and like they say it as a joke, or um,
Especially
you
as a
know,
adult.
especially as adults, it's sad to me because there are people who are truly the people who are really thinking about it are the last ones who will ever say anything. And
Yeah.
I think that's the saddest thing is, we're in a community of people where we're always like we're having that change of like mental health awareness and trying to encourage people to talk about it. But at the same time, when somebody really needs help, we don't know what to do. We don't like if somebody really came up to you and was like say somebody came up to you on the street and was like, "Hey, I'm really depressed. I lost my job. My girlfriend left me. I have 10 cents in my bank account. I'm thinking about killing myself." What are you going to do?
You would
Most
freeze.
people walk away.
Exactly. You would walk away or freeze. You would just be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know
You
how to
don't,
respond.
yeah, like you don't know what to say. You don't know how to help them. You don't know if they're trying to panhandle you because so many people have abused that way of thinking. Whether it's, people on the street, whether it's, you know, abusive partners in relationships who use that as a means, don't leave me. Like we've taken that term and we've really watered down the severity of that mindset to the point when people are really struggling, we don't feel like we can talk about it.
Definitely, yeah.
And, that's kind of where I was at. And that's why it's so important for me to like, tell women if you're feeling any type of way, just go to the gym. I know it seems like the last thing that you want to do, or don't even go to the gym, schedule a class, take a hike, go, just take your dog on a walk, get outside, get some fresh air, release some endorphins into your brain because it really will make the biggest impact on your mentality and just in the amount of control you feel in that situation.
And even something as simple as walking, people they don't realize how much it does.
Oh yeah, like personally, my cardio, my weight loss wasn't my goal, but it was a happy side effect. But I've been walking an hour on a treadmill or outside every day for the last 3 months. I've lost 8 pounds.
And something that's low, it's low impact and it's
But
low
I'm not a runner.
intensity.
Yeah, I'm not a runner. But yeah, no, I put a podcast on, I watch a TV show, I watch a YouTube video, and I just go. My biggest pet peeve is you have a lot of these people a lot of these fitness trainers and stuff nowadays saying like be mindful in your cardio training. Don't listen to a podcast. Don't watch Netflix. Okay, you know what? If it is a different, you're still moving. Like, yes, do I agree that being present in your workout makes a bigger impact? It absolutely does. Nobody can deny that. But at the same time, it makes a bigger impact. So if I want my client to be on the treadmill for 30 minutes and I tell her you can't watch TV or listen to music, she's going to get off at 5 minutes. She's going to be
Absolutely.
bored out of her mind.
I'm surprised people are still pushing that though. The whole be
Oh,
super.
oh, you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at the old school mentalities that some people have around just training in general. Like, oh, what was it? I was having a conversation. I don't know if you saw like my last I think you did. You liked it. My seated good mornings
Yeah.
that I just posted or whatever. Older gentleman. He's like, "What kind of exercise is that? What are you doing? Why wouldn't you just do a good morning?"
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, maybe because my back hurts,
Yeah.
or maybe because this gives me a better range of motion. It ensures that my range of motion is accurate. It's more stable for me. And
Everybody's body is different.
and everybody's body is different. And not only that, we are creating new exercises every day.
Yes. Finally, somebody
Every
said
day.
it.
Yeah, we are creating new exercises every single day out there. It's not just because you see something different that you may have never done yourself doesn't mean that it's an invalid, improper, or useless exercise.
Exactly.
We are in an innovative industry. The human body is always changing and we are always learning new things about it. Why not do things to learn how to use it?
Exactly. And just coming up with new ideas just to be more efficient because there's ways to do things that are better. And the old stuff that they were doing, that's why a lot of them have, bone problems because that old stuff,
Right.
it wasn't studied long enough in every
No,
situation.
no, it's absolutely not. And I think we're at the point, I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're not in your 50s. But we are kind of seeing that older generation cycle out of being influential in this industry, and I think it's going to do amazing things for the fitness industry in general. Because do the old school ways work? They absolutely do. Sometimes old school stopwatch training, timing your rest periods, are have their time in their place. They absolutely do. But something as simple as like back extensions. I don't know if you've seen the difference in the way that they've noticed recruitment of the glute muscles through a rounded back extension versus a flat back
Yeah.
extension.
When
Okay,
I
so
think
like
about it, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so like you've been seeing that kind of stuff, right? If somebody would have done that 2 years ago, oh my God, your spine.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Because
true.
that old school 45, 50-year-old mentality was your back has to stay rod straight.
Flat, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
not.
that's
Your spine isn't straight. Why does it need to stay straight?
yeah.
No, your spine has a little bit of flexion, and it's okay to train with that flexion in there. But you just don't want it to go the opposite direction of what it does naturally. But yeah, we're starting to kind of see those like ideas get pushed a little bit. And the conversations are being started about, what truly is efficient, what really is safe, how do we isolate things? And I think that in the next 10 years, we're going to see some amazing things in the fitness industry
Truly.
and the
So
way that
let's see.
people are getting educated.
Thing was, what advice would you give to up and coming trainers?
To new trainers, to study, learn everything you can, ask all the questions you can. If you're in class, there's no stupid questions. If there is something that is not clicking in your head, it's important to know. Ask it as many times as you have to for it to sink in. And do not limit your field of study ever. So, like, for example, I would love to get my yoga instructor's license. Not because I want, to train yoga at all, but because I want to learn how and know how to increase people's flexibility. I mean, I would love to, take like a rock wall climbing course on how to safely do rock wall climbing because who knows, maybe I'll want a client who wants to go rock wall climbing. How cool would you feel if you went to your coach who, was running with you on a treadmill for the last 20 weeks and you're like, I think we're going to go rock wall climbing. Cool, I'm certified. I can help you.
Hmm.
Like how
And it
cool would
opens you
that
up to more people.
Right, and then and it expands your topics of conversation, and it just be broad. Have your niche, have the thing that you love to do, the thing that when somebody walks in the door, they say, "This is my situation." Like, yes, I got you, because you might hesitate a little bit on some other things. Like, I didn't think I would be training a 70-year-old man who was a heart surgeon. I never thought that would be something that I do, but we have to do mobility drills a
Right.
lot. We have to work on his hand-eye coordination. And the only reason I feel confident doing that is because I studied and I
Exactly.
didn't limit myself in my field of education. That is so important.
And I think it's key because you have guys that they're like, I just want to focus on one group, and it is usually the group that they were in themselves. So
They
if they lost
identify
weight,
with.
they're like, I did exactly, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I not to throw shade at anybody, but I feel like you see that more with athletes. People
Yes, yes,
who grew
yes.
up as athletes wanting to specifically train athletes. So then you have people like me who whatever like anytime that I've worked in a fitness setting inside of the gym where somebody else kind of decides what clients I get, I always get stuck with like the geriatric community.
Oh
Not that I don't
man.
love it. I love it. They're some of the sweetest people. They're like the most punctual and they're the people that see the value in what they're paying for. So I don't mind it.
It's
But
just a
it's
mix. You
sad
want
to
that mix.
right, but it's sad to me that just like that that's immediately the jump is like, oh, she doesn't train athletes, she wants the old people. which I don't mind. But at the same time, it's like, hey, I want a little flavor of life too every once in a while.
Exactly. That's why I always you want a mixture. You want a mixture, a little taste of everything.
Right. I don't think there's anything wrong with niching down, and that, definitely has its time and its place, but you do not want to, when you're talking about as a trainer specifically from revenue streams, you never want, unless you're the kind of trainer who is raking in 20K a month,
Which
you
is
do
super
not,
rare.
which is so, if you're doing that, please tell me how.
Yeah.
I've been in this industry a long time. And tell me how you're keeping up your quality.
Yes, with
Uh,
that many people, or what you're charging for that
right.
matter.
Yeah, like tell me, but like, how are you justifying that? You know what I mean? Like, I really want to know, but that's a whole nother conversation. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's something that I think people really need to, focus on is just have your niche, have the thing that, those clients that are your group that when they come in, you're excited, but do not ever limit your revenue sources based on niching down too hard.
Right, right.
You should be able to train whoever and whatever walks in the door. I mean, you may not be the best trainer for them, and that's, a part of self-awareness you need to have. Like if you're like, I'm not a weight loss trainer. If somebody comes up to me and they're like, "Oh, I need to lose 150 pounds," I am not your girl, but I know a few who will be, and I'm going to refer you out because as much as I can help you, they're going to be able to help you so much better. And they're going to be able to encourage you so much better. So, could I train them? If they were like, no, I absolutely love you. I know you. I've watched you. I want you to do it. I would absolutely do it. I would, no hesitation. If you want me, I'll do it. But I'm going to be upfront. I'm probably not going to be the most efficient for you.
Exactly. That happens. You have somebody that they like you, but it's like you're like, for your benefit, I'm gonna refer you, so you get the most,
Hmm. Oh,
you
yeah,
get the most out of it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would be scared of anybody in the industry who's not doing that.
Hmm.
I would be afraid to work alongside people who won't refer people to somebody that they know who might be more
Yeah.
applicable. Those are the trainers that would scare me because those are the trainers that are money hungry and all they care about is the price tag at the end of the day. And those are the people who are going to injure people or who are going to, who are going to make people not excel the way that they could.
Hmm.
And that's something I think in the fitness industry we all kind of have to come to terms with is like we're an industry. Yes, we're all competitors, but at the end of the day, like, you don't see a hairdresser going up behind somebody and cutting their hair stupidly because the hairstylist down the road did it. Why are we doing that as trainers? Like, why am I going to say, oh, yeah, no, I don't like the way that they trained? That's how they trained. If my client that I'm working with now likes the way that they trained, what is my business having to do with it? Unless you're purely uneducated.
Hmm.
And like,
Yeah,
unless you're
that's the
coming
whole
from,
separate.
yeah, that's a whole separate issue. But like, I could see something somebody is doing and be like, I wouldn't train that way. I wouldn't train my client that way. But for their client, that might be the best route.
Right. Exactly.
Not my business. But I'm not going to trash talk that trainer to bolster myself.
Truly, because it happens a whole
Right.
lot.
Yeah, like I have a guy that I worked with at my first gym. He and I stay in constant contact. He specifies in athletes. He can train a little bit of everybody else too, but he'll refer to me. I'll refer to him.
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't want to train some snot-nosed 14-year-old who thinks that, they're going to be the next LeBron. I don't want to
Exactly.
do it.
And not everybody wants the same thing. That's the point. Not
Yeah,
everybody wants to get super pop. So you have people that specifically will
right.
train,
Yeah, like
go
why
to you
wouldn't
first.
yeah, like why wouldn't I pad your book with people that are lighting your fire when they walk in as a trainer so that you can do that for me?
Exactly.
Let's let's be a team. Team effort here.
So it helps a lot. But I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. I'm
We're
sorry
gonna
if this
have
was
more.
long. Was this long?
Nope, not a problem at all. So we're gonna have more shows coming up. Also, I have my workshop on what day is it? Saturday. So for you guys, since you guys do the interviews, it's gonna be pre-recorded and it'll only be accessible to you guys, so you guys can watch it anytime.
Oh, awesome.
Everybody else, they have to watch it at that time because I take it down after I think 72 hours. But for you guys, since you guys came on, you guys have it for life. So Saturday it
Awesome.
should be up, so you can watch it anytime. But I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you having me on.
Definitely. And I will talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.